So I think with a slight delay, it's time that we start this joint workshop from two European projects, INFINITECH and AAA. Both of them are working on digital finance, risk assessment, and energy efficient investments. So there is certainly some common area of those two projects. And this is what we will be exploring today. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to two of the leading figures in this project, Jara Caracosta from NTUA and AAA project, and Ernesto Troiano from INFINITECH. So please, the floor is yours. Take the time. Let's start with Jara. Take the time to introduce yourselves and your projects, and then we can follow our agenda with the more detailed presentations in the panel. Jara, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome also from my side. I'm Jara Caracosta. I'm from the Decision Support Systems Laboratory of the National Technical University of Athens. And along with my colleagues, Mrs. Katerina Papapostolou and Philip Mexis and Mr. Philip Mexis, we are representing today the Horizon 2020 project AAA. That our institute, the National Technical University of Athens, has also the pleasure of coordinating. First of all, and also on behalf of AAA project, let me thank you all for the attendance and of the invitation. But a special thanks belongs to the INFINITECH project that for the kind invitation and proposing also this idea for organizing this joint event, and also for all the strong coordination and efforts that brings us all here today and hear more about this very interesting topic and discuss about risk assessment techniques promoting sustainable investments. It has been a pleasure. Let me say that the focus of today's discussion is a key issue for AAA. Indeed, energy efficiency investments are subject to various risks and uncertainties, which may affect the involved actors' profitability. And as such, there is a need for developing tools to support the decisions. So far, the developed methodological frameworks that aim at projecting the profitability and risk of such investments present a high complexity, a high technical complexity, and involved actors have difficulties in digesting these results. Here's the gap that AAA fills in. And of course, you will hear more details about that later on from my colleagues, Katerina Papapostolou and Philip Mexis. I'm sure that we will accelerate the exchange of ideas and find common ground with INFINITECH and also scaling up of good practices. I wish you all a very successful webinar. Thank you very much. So I guess the floor is back to John or Ernesto.
Or me. So without undue, thank you for, first of all, of the invitation and for the opportunity to share our experiences within those two projects. Well, I really believe that the federation of a European project has a great value. John and me were organizing other clusters, and they make absolutely sense. So to share information, to share the achievement, to share what we know and what others knows. Also for the Commission, this has a great value. So again, thank you for the invitation. I think that this opportunity is really important for the starting. It's not an end, it's just a starting within these two projects. Besides that, I'm Ernesto Troiano, as John already said, that I am managing the INFINITECH project. Well, actually, the INFINITECH project is a lighthouse, a big also investment from the European Commission, specifically for the financial sector. One of the few projects that is focused on the financial and insurance sector, because they were hid from the radar of the other program in the past. So it was a very important, just because we put the emphasis on big data and analytics on specific use cases that involves the financial sector, like personal portfolios, investment, where the risk assessment is key. So today we will hear more about that from our partners and colleagues, from Richard, John, and others. So again, I thank you for the invitation. Without further ado, I will ask to start the video unless there are other introduction, so I can present the video that shows the topics of the INFINITECH project. Please go. Thanks. I don't know what happens about the audio.
The financial sector is historically conservative and therefore resistant to digital transformation. Despite the rising investments in innovation, financial institutions still face many challenges to keep up. Embracing the digital transformation is only one of the problems. The continuously evolving regulatory environment, privacy protection policies, and the emergence of new types of fraud raise barriers to change, making it hard to benefit fully from the latest technologies. But it's really hard to gather such a huge amount of data from so many fragmented sources. By leveraging and sharing their data, banks, fintechs, and financial institutions could create more effective digital services and personalize them around the customer. They could prevent frauds, make services more accessible, and improve their decision-making. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a unified solution that helped the financial sector to gather data and really go forward with the digital transformation process?
Well, of course there is. INFINITECH is already operational, resolving problems for over 2 years now. We provide cutting-edge big data, AI, and blockchain technology for digital finance, coupled with complementary assets like trainings, innovative processes, and regulatory compliance building blocks. INFINITECH is a large-scale flagship project with 46 partners coming from 16 different countries. We test 16 different pilots with many more use cases, and we have a total budget of 21 million euros.
Didn't you forget something?
Yes, my colleague John will tell you more about the business aspect of INFINITECH.
Our solutions enable banks and fintechs to offer highly personalized products to their customers. For example, we use big data to create personalized asset management recommendations for retail customers. The recommendations are automated, yet explainable and trustworthy. This enables banks to offer high-quality wealth management services to customers with relatively smaller portfolios and low appetite for risk. Overall, INFINITECH improves the competitiveness of banks, financial institutions, and fintechs while making artificial intelligence services more accessible to European citizens. This lowers the barriers for European citizens to access high-quality digital management services.
This sounds great, but can someone explain how it works?
That would be me. AI services developed in the project enable advanced analytical capabilities such as incremental and declarative real-time analytics. INFINITECH provides a seamless data management layer that allows AI to combine data coming from heterogeneous and diverse sources, having both operational and analytical datasets, allowing for integrating processes over static and streaming data. This, in combination with the semantic interoperability engine of INFINITECH, allow AI developers to explore a whole new path and create a new generation of services for fintech. The microservices-based reference architecture of INFINITECH enables the agile creation of workflows in a bespoke pipeline to build innovative applications, optimizing costs and reutilizing the already developed building blocks of the project.
INFINITECH interacts frequently with the European digital finance communities and associations. For example, GFT, as INFINITECH coordinator, together with other partners of the consortium, created and now lead the task force Big Data and AI for the financial sector, carrying on several activities, such as the publication of a white paper. INFINITECH is recently publishing an open access book on its research and innovation activities. It has developed a marketplace to share assets and components, and as well as the so-called VDIH, providing trainings and innovation services. Keep up to date with our latest news. Subscribe to our newsletter, attend our workshop, follow us on our social media. We really appreciate your feedback.
All right, so here follows the credits and some bloopers, but I think that is enough. That was a much more explainable that I can tell you, but a few things I would like to add, if I may. Like I said, I will share my screen just for a few more slides, okay? But is the second one and share. So I don't know what I'm sharing right now. The usual, do you see my screen? And
Yes, yes.
all right. So what I want to tell you first, a few things about the project. How big it is a huge investment from the Commission, a huge investment also from the partners. We are 48, not 46. The number has changed over time, but this is a really a lighthouse project also for the Commission, specifically for this industry, which, as the video explained, has some kind of let's say resilience to the innovation, but definitely it needs. So the project is big data and analytics and of course, trendy technologies, IoT, blockchains. So INFINITECH, as the name, as an infinitum almost of components, from technologies to business motivation, drivers, and so on and so forth. But the key thing is that we put the project not in some development, but mostly in demonstrator. And most of the demonstrator, I will show you later on, regards specifically the financial sector, where the risk assessment, the assessment of any kind of data involved with personal portfolios, cyber crimes, transaction, whatever is key. That's why we develop components. I'm sorry, the presentation is not moving at all, but we develop components, we develop technologies, we develop methodologies to address all this problem. And this is our most important achievement. Besides, we create a marketplace where the things can be hosted. We create a virtual innovation digital hub where the other provider with a community can find a solution for their needs. So INFINITECH is everything. I want just to show you how big is the project with the partners from research centers, academia, universities, to, of course, vendors. But at the center, there are banks, central banks, financial and insurance institutions, and fintech and insurance tech companies. So the project brings all these values, all these experiences and competencies to create what we call the INFINITECH way. The INFINITECH way is a set of, if you want, methodologies, technologies, assets, way to develop on test bed to create the sandboxes for the pilot and demonstrator. So this is key. I'm really going through very quickly. This is key to the project, and we can share some kind of achievement with other projects, also to understand what they have achieved, where are they heading to, in order to converge to some common goals. So with any further ado, I will just invite you to visit our marketplace, to invite you to visit of course, the website, but especially the resources that we bring out for the communities, especially in the fintech arena. So it's all from my side. I will leave the floor to my colleagues that they will explain in details what they have done, what they have achieved, what are the scientific and technical approach to solve the many problems, in particular the risk assessment topic. Thank you for your attention. Again, thank you for the occasion to speak about the INFINITECH project. Back to you.
Thank you, Ernesto. So maybe it's time we go to Richard, University of Glasgow. Richard, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us how you develop personalized risk assessment models using machine learning in INFINITECH for investments. Richard, the floor is yours.
Okay, can whoever is sharing their screen stop sharing, and then I will.
Yes, yes.
There we go. Okay, can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. So thanks for the introduction. So as I said, I'm Richard McCready from the University of Glasgow. And we've been working in the INFINITECH project on personalized investment technologies. So effectively what this is about is trying to be able to make investment opportunities for people to invest in their future available to everyone, rather than only sort of high paid investment people. So let me start by just giving, just setting the scene for this particular talk. So if we think about Europe and sort of Western nations more generally, we have a series of problems that are becoming more apparent. So effectively, a lot of our populace are not saving enough for their future, which is going to cause downstream problems for us as a nation or nations moving forward when they reach retirement. So just to give you some stats from the UK, about 35% of the UK adult population say they don't have a pension, and about 43% admit they don't know how much they'll need for retirement. And one of the ways that we can try and solve this problem is to get those people, or provide the tools for those people, to invest in their future. However, there are a range of barriers that are currently stopping members of the general public from being able to invest in financial markets. Whether this is just the complexity that's involved here, which is not helped by the amount of jargon in the finance domain, making it difficult for them to understand what they're investing in and also the consequences of their investments. There is challenges in terms of just learning, in terms of time spent to understand financial markets. It's difficult for them to quantify risk with regard to investments, as well as the different types of risks. And as we are moving into much broader markets, I mean, today you can invest from anything from bonds all the way to cryptocurrencies, then it's very difficult to decide for a customer what they should invest in. And as more of a spotlight is being placed on the financial marketplace and the amount of money there, there is a large number of different people that are providing potentially suspect financial advice. And so it's an open question of, well, who can you actually trust? And so given these barriers, we can't really expect a member of the general public to be able to become a savvy investor on their own, right? And so in an ideal world, we would want to be able to provide everyone their own financial advisor who could analyze their position and recommend financial assets that they could then invest in. In that way, the financial advisor is responsible for minimizing the risk for the customer by identifying profitable assets for them to invest in that's going to meet their risk profile or appetite. But this just simply isn't scalable. Expert financial advisor time is limited and expensive. And particular financial advisors may not be general. They may only specialize in particular markets. Which leads us into innovations in the space of artificial intelligence-powered investment recommendation systems, or as they're sometimes referred to, robo-advisors. So robo-advisors are not new. They were first actually devised around about 13 years ago, but they're becoming increasingly common as a tool for managing large amounts of wealth in our modern marketplaces. So what these are simply computer programs that analyze market data and potentially customer data, and then provide recommendations for things for the customer might invest in. This might be you opening up your app and it going and saying, look, here's some investment opportunities for you today, or it might be a more automated system which is applying rules to perform the trades automatically, where the customer is effectively just passing control to the computer program. However, many of these platforms or these robo-advisors are actually relatively primitive in terms of the technologies that they're using. Many of them are rule-based. However, what we've been seeing over the last few years is a slow transitioning into more intelligent systems that are backed by machine learning. For those of you who don't have a background in this space, when I'm talking about machine learning, I'm actually talking about the broader topic of teaching a computer how to go and do a task that would normally be done by humans, where this is typically done through example. So effectively, you give the computer an example of a potential trade in this case, and then the computer tries and values that particular trade, and then it can feed back how well it did based on whether it made money or not. Machine learning has been around for over 70 years. Machine learning in the finance space has existed for about 20 years. However, what makes this particularly interesting is significant innovations have been made over the last 5 years, which are really starting to push forward the technology in the finance space. So I'm just going to note 3 sort of major innovations. There are some others that are important, but these are kind of the major ones. First of all, the development of new neural network technologies backed by GPU compute has enabled us to massively increase model complexity. And what this does is enables us to model much more complex applications effectively, such that we can take financial applications and integrate much more detailed data just beyond simple market technical indicators. There's also been significant movement in the natural language understanding space, which has really pushed forward technologies like search or other related systems. For example, if you use a conversational assistant like an Amazon Echo or those kind of technologies, that's all being driven by these kind of innovations. And that kind of technology can be adapted for the financial domain to better understand news and social media data. And finally, we've also seen barriers to using these technologies for SMEs being lowered by the development and then open release of large neural networks that are pre-trained on a range of tasks, which allow people to not just start from scratch. They start from an existing model and then they can adapt it for their own particular application. So this kind of AI revolution is really kind of opening the doors for new technologies. And so what we've been doing in terms of INFINITECH is looking at how we can use these technologies to try and improve these kind of AI-based financial assistants. We do this through asset recommendation. That's the way we formulate this as a task. So recommendation technologies, I think a lot of us will be familiar with them if we don't actually know how they work. So for example, if you ever go to like Netflix and it recommends you movies, it's the same type of underlying technology. The idea is it takes in 3 types of information. So it takes in information about your items. In a Netflix case, that would be your movies, and it represents those somehow. It takes in information about the user. So in the movie case, the person that's wanting to have movies recommended to them. So that might be their past history. It might have some information about what they're currently looking for. And then it takes in some information about the world state. So that might be, in the movie example, how popular are movies globally? If we adapt this kind of paradigm to the financial space, then it becomes a bit more complicated. The items that we're trying to represent are financial assets. So these might be stocks, shares, commodities, other types of financial trading items. And we can represent these in different ways. So we might represent those using classical technical indicators based on market data, but we can also use some of these more advanced AI-based technologies to represent those in terms of maybe sentiment analyzed from news sources, technical reports, social media, these different kind of additional sources that give the sort of broader public view on these assets. From the customer perspective, we can represent that customer based on previous investments that they've made, also potentially their liquidity based on past transaction history, for example, if we have their banking details. We might also give them a questionnaire so that we can collect information about them and their situation. So get information about their risk preference or their investment horizon. How long are they planning to invest for? This type of information that can help us customize the recommendations for that particular customer. World state in this case is things about the market as a whole. So are particular segments of the market doing well or are they doing badly, as well as other external factors that may be influencing the overall market. So for example, are we going through a financial crash? What is the effect that COVID is happening? These types of things, which can influence entire segments of the market. And then these different features can be then passed into a machine learning model, and it can try and learn patterns that help link financial assets to customers based on how profitable those assets are and how well they match the risk profile and other customized factors about that particular customer. So this is just a definition of the task. I'll just quickly go over that. It's just what I said. So what we've been doing in INFINITECH is we've been developing different AI-based models for this for a range of different stock markets and tasks. So this is just some sample data to illustrate how this can work. This is from the Greek stock market that we were working with the National Bank of Greece. So this is a model that we trained from 2018 to 2019 and tested in 2020 for about 1,000 financial assets from the Greek stock market and about 52,000 customers, where we had past financial transactions for some of those and also asset investments for some of those customers. And as you can see, these models can be quite effective, right? We can get annualized return between 20 to 35% on average for different assets in this particular year. Now, you're not going to get that for every year because, of course, return is dependent on your the effect or the actual growth in the market overall, as well as how effective past history is at predicting the future. But it kind of illustrates that the value add that these kind of models can bring for improving returns and minimizing risk on investment. So I'll stop there because I've got limited time, and we'll talk a bit more about this maybe and some of the advantages and risks of these systems in the panel. But if you're interested in going off and trying some of these technologies, as Ernesto mentioned, in INFINITECH, we have a marketplace where we put up different technologies, either paid or for free, where you can go and try out some of these technologies yourself. So you can go to marketplace.infinitech-h2020.eu. And if you're interested in trying out some of the financial asset recommendation technologies we built, then we provided full tutorials for those online, which you can work through yourselves. You can get at, you can directly launch these in Google Colab. I provided a link here for you. You don't need to take a snapshot for this or go off now. I'll make sure we share the slides around later so you can go and access those. Please stay for a panel. But if you're interested in trying some of these technologies out, that information's there. And with that, I will pass over.
Of course, you are free to ask questions, right, to Richard and the speakers anytime. We are a little bit of time, so maybe we can continue with George to talk about real-time risk assessment. And of course, we invite everybody to subscribe to INFINITECH Marketplace and find information there. And just to say that AAA is the first project to put some of their assets there, and we thank AAA very much for this. George?
Yes, if you wish to go and ask questions, please do so in the chat, or you could save your questions for the panel.
Okay. Hi, this is Orfatouros from INFINITECH, and in this presentation we will discuss and demonstrate technologies and models in order to provide real-time risk assessment in investment banking. These technologies have been developed by INFINITECH and JRC Capital Management in the context of Pilot 2 of the INFINITECH project. The motivation for this pilot lies in the fact that there are still many traders and portfolio managers who lack accurate risk information in real time. This is due to the practice to update risk calculation of a portfolio only once a day, usually overnight in a batch mode, which of course is not appropriate for trading environments like, for instance, high-frequency trading. This is the case for many banks, even more for smaller asset and fund management firms, when the risk evaluation is done by a third party as a service that is in charge of monitoring the compliance of portfolio managers with agreed investment guidelines, and also is responsible for the risk controlling. Such companies usually offer a real-time overview of positions on the accounts, but with respect to risk measures and other indicators, they only update their estimations once a day. Also, from the perspective of the financial institute as a whole, the risk exposure from intraday price fluctuation is not monitored properly, which may lead to trading or investment inefficiencies. Traditionally, there is a trade-off between speed and accuracy for this type of risk evaluation. There are fast methods of calculation, but these are usually not as reliable as the computationally more complex ones. And finally, close risk monitoring is also a regulatory requirement that can be supported significantly if the information is available in real time. The pilot for the risk assessment purpose implements two standard risk measures, value at risk and expected shortfall. VAR is a measure of the risk of loss for investments. Specifically, it estimates the maximum loss of a set of investments within a given probability and time horizon, typically a day. Expected shortfall, which is also called conditional value at risk, is a measure whose calculation is based on VAR, but while value at risk gives only a threshold for the losses, expected shortfall gives a concrete value. These metrics have many uses in finance, not only within risk management, but also in other fields, in financial control, financial reporting, in computing regulatory capital, which is the amount of assets that a bank or an investment company needs in order to cover potential losses. Additionally, the pilot introduces a novel VAR model, the so-called deep VAR, which is based on deep neural networks and is able to offer more robust risk assessments than the classic VAR methods. Another feature is based on the what-if scenarios and focuses on pre-trade risk assessment. This means that if a trader sees an opportunity for a trade, he may enter this trade into the system and request a calculation of the risk with this new trade added to the portfolio as if it were done already. The what-if scenario is very useful for traders in order to understand how a potential new trading position may affect their portfolio and its risk. And the last feature is the sentiment analysis, meaning that the pilot takes into account not only price data, but also additional data sources like text and news data, from which it performs sentiment analysis in order to generate real-time alarms about, for instance, a sudden change in market conditions. All these features are applied in real time, uncovering risk which possibly were unknown, and enable close control of the given portfolios. The real-time monitoring enables quicker reactions and gives the possibility to make adjustments to the portfolio if needed. In the next slides, we elaborate on the deep VAR and the sentiment analysis models. Deep VAR is based on the deep AR algorithm, which utilizes recurrent neural networks to produce probabilistic forecasts in the form of Monte Carlo samples. The produced samples are used to compute consistent VAR estimates in a certain prediction horizon. Also, this algorithm can be fed simultaneously with several similar time series, enabling cross-learning between them, which make it ideal for this use case. DeepVar was developed by Amazon and has been applied successfully in several business sectors, such as in the retail sector, predicting the number of sales per product, or in industry estimating electricity demand. However, these cases follow a classical machine learning pipeline, where the model is trained once and for several hours in a large dataset. On the other hand, DeepVar implements a continuous learning approach, where the model is retrained on the latest market data, addressing the dynamic nature of financial markets, while avoiding at the same time model bias, serial correlation between VAR estimation, and clustered VAR breaches. To achieve that, we fine-tune it to enable model training in a timely manner, less than 30 seconds, that makes it applicable even for intraday VAR estimations. In our experiments, DeepVar outperformed all the standard VAR models, producing valid VAR estimates, even in periods of high volatility in the markets, such as at the start of COVID pandemic. And also a scientific paper presenting all these technical details into the evaluation project that we followed has accepted for publication by Springer Digital Finance Journal and will be published very soon open source. Moving to the sentiment analysis feature, the pilot uses a state-of-the-art pre-trained AI model named FinBERT, which is a natural language processing model to analyze sentiment of financial text. It is built by further training Google's BERT language model in the finance domain, using a large financial corpus and thereby fine-tuning it for financial sentiment. And the pilot, leveraging transfer learning, uses FinBERT out of the box without further evaluation. However, special attention was paid on the pre-processing of the input data, while the implementation follows a human-in-the-loop approach. To this end, the user is able to review the input text and the predicted sentiment through the pilot's user interface. In the next two slides, we will discuss how we achieve real-time availability of the provided risk indicators. Regarding the portfolio VAR estimation, instead of calculating the VAR of each given portfolio, whose structure may change very often, we initially calculate VAR at asset level for all the assets of interest. DeepVar is fed with various time series in parallel, and we training, and this has minimal effect in the inference time. After this step, the estimated distribution of each asset is available, and the asset level VAR is obtained by taking the quantile that correspond to the given confidence probability. Then, based on the input portfolio weights on each asset and the time horizon of VAR, only a matrix multiplication to obtain the covariance of the used asset is required to obtain portfolio VAR. Therefore, the overall process is quite time efficient. It is repeated every minute, taking into account the latest available data. However, delivering the utilization of the latest data is a challenging task. For instance, Forex market prices are updated at inconsistent high frequency, while even small price fluctuation may have a significant impact on portfolios. due to aggressive investment strategies. For this reason, the application incorporates two important innovations that have been incorporated into the Linux scale database that is provided by INFINITECH. First, the data store allows ingesting data at very high rates and performing analytics on the same data set without having to migrate historical data in data warehouse using periodic batch processes. And secondly, its online aggregate feature enables efficient execution of the required aggregation operations using a declarative way with standard SQL statements. This improves the response time in orders of magnitude. Additionally, an interface between the data provider, for example, the bank, and the data store is required to handle the real-time data streams that are injected to the system. As these components need to communicate asynchronously, ensuring high availability and fault tolerance, the most popular intermediate is the use of data queues. INFINITECH also provides the Kafka data queue, while the Linux scale database has a built-in Kafka connector, which enables the interconnection and the automating the storage of the input data.
George, maybe we can speed up a little bit because we are lagging behind in time.
Okay. I'm finishing. Okay, this is how the whole system is deployed using the INFINITECH way with a microservices approach. And I can go directly to the demo.
After the users log into the pilot's user interface and select one of their portfolios, they are informed about several statistics regarding the instruments of his portfolio. As you can see, there is a Pearson correlation plot, a density plot, and at the bottom a price plot. Note that all these figures are dynamic, while the number of the utilized historical data is adjustable. In the analysis and backtesting page, the app user can see how the available VAR models performed. VAR is predicted using all the three standard methods: variance covariance, historical simulation, and Monte Carlo, as well as with a deep VAR model. In addition, a parametric model calculating the expected shortfall is provided. These predictions are updated every minute based on the latest available market and trade data. The green line is the actual portfolio returns depicted against the estimated VAR models. The dense lines are for 95% confidence probability, while the dashed lines are for 99%. As you can see from the historical performance of each model, Deep VAR adapts to the volatility of the true portfolio returns, enabling significantly fewer VAR breaches than the rest models. At the bottom can be seen the latest trading position. The third page of the user interface provides the real-time VAR predictions of the given portfolio. The user can select the time horizon, the confidence level, and the utilized risk model in order to see the risk of his position according to the latest input data. The plot at the bottom illustrates the deep VAR model predicting the 15-minute value at risk for the next hour as an intraday risk estimation. Note that the time horizon and the prediction window of deep VAR can be adjusted according to the user's trading strategy. The sentiment analysis page depicts the market sentiment of the traded assets. Here, we retrieve relevant tweets in real time through the Twitter API, process them, and predict their sentiment with the Finbert model. The users can examine the percentage of tweets per sentiment category over different time granularities. Filtering the illustrated data per asset type is also available. It is mentioned that the system leveraging a microservices architecture can be fed with text from different data sources. The last page of the application is for the pre-trade analysis. The user can adjust several parameters and experiment with several different positions on the assets of his portfolio. In this way, he is able to understand how a potential trading position can affect the risk of his portfolio.
Okay, this is the end of the demo. I also like to remind you that all these assets are available in the FinTech marketplace, along with training materials and videos. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George. And yes, we were a little bit out of time, so let's go straight to AAA. Hara, Katarina, Philip.
Yes, John, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. So I will start with a brief presentation of the project objectives and contribution, and then my colleague Philip will demonstrate live the toolbox. I think that now you can see my screen. First of all, I would like to thank you all for the participation. I would like to thank also INFINITECH partners for the collaboration and the organization of today's webinar. As I have already said, I will briefly present our project, the AAA project, which has developed in order to assist investors and policymakers to choose profitable solutions and energy efficiency projects. We have developed a methodology and a toolbox that secure such investments and that could meet their financial commitments. So some facts and general information about the project. The full title of the project is Enhancing at an Early Stage the Investment Value Chain of Energy Efficiency Projects. The project initiated in September 2019 under the support of European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. It has a duration of 33 months, and finally it ends on the 31st of May 2022. The overall budget is around €1.5 million, and consists of a consortium with 12 members that includes financing bodies such as ABN AMRO, JRC, Piraeus Bank, VIPA, and DEF from Bulgaria, project developers such as the Spanish CRARA and Seven from Czech Republic, policy support institutes from the Netherlands, ICP and Delphi, as well as researchers and academic institutes such as National Technical University of Athens and University of Piraeus. The coordinator of the project is the Decision Support Systems Laboratory of NTUA, which is a leading research institute in the area of management and decision support for energy and climate sectors. And the scope of our project is to support energy efficiency investments and cover the energy efficiency gap, despite the existence of many investments with great prospects and potential at the development phase. As you know, only a few of them finally achieved to get financed. The main factors that hinder the financing of such investments are, for instance, lack of evidence of the performance of such projects, the lack of standardized procedures and standards, the underestimation of the benefits that these projects have, and the lack of knowledge and expertise. So in AAA, we're trying to close these gaps, to have investors, to have a common language for investors and project developers. And in order to address these challenges, we aim at identifying and promote promoting bankable and sustainable investments, the so-called AAA investments, which are investments with a strong capacity to meet their commitments from the early stages of a project generation. The question that we try to answer is how we can mainstream energy efficiency investments. So the AAA methodology and the tools try to offer a standardized process for the identification, assessment, and benchmarking of project ideas to support bankers, funds, and financing institutions in finding profitable solutions. We are examining mainly projects from our 8 AAA case study countries, which are strategically selected to promote diversity across a number of factors. These countries are Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Germany, Greece, Italy, Lithuania, the Netherlands, and Spain. And to boost the financing of the projects, several strategies, financing strategies have been explored, such as green loans, green mortgages, green bonds, and energy efficiency options. While a portfolio of energy efficiency projects that better match with the needs of financing institutions has been also developed. Key aspect of our approach is also the stakeholder engagement. We try to engage key actors from several target groups in order to enable development, implementation, and testing of our methodology and tools. More particularly regarding our case studies, the approach that we have developed is implemented in these 8 case study countries, which have different backgrounds, different characteristics in terms of regulatory issues, in terms of energy environment, and economic and financial background. Several actions have been implemented in order to engage the stakeholders, the national stakeholders from these countries. For instance, we have organized capacity building webinars in order to cover topics such as EU taxonomy regulation, risks and mitigation strategies, to assess potential future investments and instruments that could maximize the potential of the projects. We have also recently organized regional training workshops in each one of these countries in order to demonstrate our tools, to practical test the 3 tools and our database in order to gather feedback and from our stakeholders and discuss their further exploitation with them. Of course, bilateral meetings with our advisory board members and our national contacts have been realized in order to test the tools, to gather input and knowledge from their experience and update our methodology and approach. And finally, we're currently preparing synthesis paper for its case study with targeted recommendations on the policy framework and the market architecture across these countries and of course across all over Europe. Now, as I have already said, a key pillar of our approach is stakeholder engagement. AAA relies on its target groups, which are key actors to enable the exploitation of our innovative scheme for energy efficiency financing. Since stakeholder engagement is becoming an essential component to enlighten the gap of the senior support processes, we have developed a concrete engagement approach in order to involve highly relevant stakeholders. So the figure presents in the slide presents the target groups that we have identified throughout the project, while the table shows the implemented activities, stakeholder consultation activities, along with their impact for the different stakeholder types. The stakeholders' involvement has facilitated us in better implementing our AAA actions through input on the identification of the risks that hinder the implementation of energy efficiency investments, through prioritizing the risks and giving weights in our criteria for the risk assessment. They have reviewed our technical reports and provide feedback. They have participated in our events, workshops. They have signed up and tested the tools and database. One of the most important aspects is that they have provided real energy efficiency project ideas in order to compile our pipeline of projects that were then assessed and benchmarked through our tools. The AAA approach is a practical result-oriented approach that tries to answer in 3 questions: to assess the financing instruments and risks at an early stage, to agree on investments that can be considered as AAA investments that meet their commitments and have a good performance in several KPIs, and assign the identified AAA investments with the financial schemes that we are examining. So through this approach, we promote investments that have strong capacity to meet their commitments. We have identified AAA investments, and we have tried to reduce time and effort that is required at this crucial phase of the investment conceptualization, while we try to make the investment more attractive for investors and financiers in order to get finance finally. Here in this slide, you can see the 3 AAA tools: the assess, the agree, and the assign tool. The AAA tools assess energy efficiency investments towards 5 sectors of activities, namely buildings, manufacturing, transport, district heating, district energy networks, and outdoor lighting. And more particularly, the first tool, the agree tool, evaluates the maturity of the proposed energy efficiency project ideas that have been inserted in the tool, and executes the risk assessment, while it also checks the compliance of the projects with the eligible technical screening criteria of the EU taxonomy. The second tool, the agree tool, performs the benchmarking of the investment ideas based on financial risk and sustainable development goals indicators. It uses a multi-criteria decision analysis method, the LTRIM method, in order to classify the inserted projects into 3 categories: the AAA, the reserved, and the rejected ones. As you can understand, the AAA projects are, let's say, the best projects, the projects that meet the criteria, that have high values in the KPIs and good performance in all the important criteria. And in the case that the project has poor performance in the KPIs, it will be marked as rejected by the AAA tools. Of course, tips and methods are also provided in order to increase the performance of the candidate projects through our tools. And finally, the third tool, the assign tool, is a multidimensional platform. It has several different pages for investors, and for project developers with different functionalities. And the stakeholders, the users, can send requests for green loans, green mortgages, green bonds, and energy efficiency auctions. They can they promote the matchmaking between bankable projects and financing schemes. Well, this tool promotes the pathways in order to achieve finally the project delivery. Through this tool, financing institutes and project developers can come into contact and aggregate projects or agree on the best financing instruments. Now, the second, let's say, part of our toolbox is the AAA database on energy efficiency financing that incorporates data and functionalities that enable the effective and interactive communication of the AAA methodology results. The data included in the database refer to, of course, to the AAA case study countries, while we're exploring to expand this data for the rest of EU countries. The content is being updated, of course, on a regular basis because the data also sometimes come from global databases, so we have to update them regularly. The KPIs reported have emerged by a bottom-up procedure. We have incorporated also input from stakeholder consultation, from surveys that we have conducted. And in brief, the data that are in the database contain critical aspects of energy efficiency financing, such as implementation of risks, the risk mitigation strategies, preferences of investors on energy efficiency projects, financial performance of successfully implemented projects, models and instruments for financing of the projects, and also the performance of the countries in terms of SDG indexes. Finally, to sum up, AAA offers important tools that could support both project developers and financiers to enhance and give confidence to those target groups in order to boost the financing of energy efficiency projects. It tries to close the gap between these two stakeholder groups. We provide a rating system along with benchmarks and KPIs in order to assess the projects and identify the most profitable ones at an early stage, while we facilitate the matchmaking process with financing schemes. Finally, through targeted recommendations that are currently prepared, where we will promote the European priorities and policy actions on leveraging private funding. And here are some facts and figures regarding our achievements, our successful achievements. Indicatively, we have almost 200 project entries in the tools, several downloads of the country reports from the database. We have identified more than 700 stakeholders, while almost 140 of them have been actively engaged. More than 157 stakeholders have signed up and tested our tools. We have created synergies with 53 relevant EU projects, several questionnaires that have fed our tools, and the result of which have fed the tools and the database. Of course, several outputs in terms of publications, scientific publications, articles and blogs in websites, newsletters and press releases, both from our side, from the AAA side, as well as references to AAA in newsletters from our partners and our synergy projects. And in order to promote our results and activities, we have participated in almost 80 workshops. We have jointly organized activities with almost 30 activities. We have jointly organized almost 30 activities with relevant projects. And finally, we have prepared and published the material, online material, communication material, for making available our results to general public, such as banners, templates, and QR codes that are also available in our website and social media. I would like to invite all to explore our tools, to visit and explore our tools, to sign up and explore the functionalities, test the tools, and get back to us for more information and comments, of course, for updates. Thank you all. You can find us in social media, and recently we have made also posts for our final European Roadshow. The registration link is available. I would like to invite you all to participate and see our results and findings and further recommendations that have been emerged from this journey, the AAA journey. I think that Philip, now you can go on with the live demonstration.
Hello to all from me. Hello, Katerina. I will share my screen. I guess you all can see my screen now.
Yes.
So my colleague Katerina has introduced the AAA tools very efficiently, but I would like to add a few more comments regarding the risk assessment that is being performed by the tools, although the risk assessment is just a fraction of the capabilities that the tools provide to energy efficiency stakeholders. Here we have a general diagram of the three tools. We have the assess tool, the agree tool, and the assign tool. These are homonymous to the main methodology of the AAA project. So the assess tool estimates the risk of the energy efficiency projects that are included in the platform, and also it provides an EU Taxonomy Compliance in order to check whether the project is compliant or not with the upcoming European taxonomy. Then the user receives these results and he proceeds to the agree tool, in which the project is being benchmarked based on specific key performance indicators, economic key performance indicators, sustainability indicators, and the risk that it has been calculated in the previous step. And the projects are classified into three main classes. And then we have the assign tool, which is a multidimensional platform, which connects project developers and their projects with the possible financing schemes. Regarding the risk assessment, I would like to present you the main categories that we have identified in the AAA methodology. And on these categories, the risk assessment of the tools is based. We have the financial category, which is related to the creditworthiness of the borrower, the behavioral risk category, which consists of the rebound effect, and it is expressed as a ratio of the loss benefit compared to the expected environmental benefit when holding the consumption constant. Also, we have the energy market and the regulatory risk, which reflects the uncertainty about energy prices and affects the decision to undertake the energy efficiency investment. We have the economic risk, which is it differentiates from the financial risk. The economic risk is monitored by the interest rates and therefore volatility factor. It reflects fluctuations in energy rates, which may lead to an unexpected cost of capital, which derives from changes in the cost of debt of the borrower, preventing the accurate estimation of the energy savings of the project. And finally, we have the technological planning and operational risks, which considers the maturity of the technology, the construction, the operation, and the maintenance, and also the capacity to predict the energy savings accurately. So the tools can be found by scanning this QR code presented on the screen, or by clicking on the links. I will show you right away a small video, which presents all the functionalities of the AAA tools. Let me just share my sound, the system sound. Okay.
This is a short demonstration video.
Can you hear the sound of my system, of the video?
Yes, we.
Okay.
Of the AAA standardized tools. The AAA standardized tools is the key element to pave the way for identifying and financing AAA energy efficiency investments and materialize the AAA approach. The tools can be accessed at aaa-h2020.eu/tools. The standardized toolbox consists of three distinct tools, namely Assess, Agree, and Assign. The Assess tool evaluates the risks and the maturity of energy efficiency investments and also checks whether they comply with the European taxonomy. The Agree tool benchmarks the investment ideas based on financial, risk, and sustainable development goal indicators. And finally, the Assign tool is a multidimensional platform that connects project developers with investors. Within the platform, requests for green loans, mortgages, and green bonds can be made by investors for the already benchmarked projects of the previous tools. The user at first should register or log in if already registered. The tools can be accessed by clicking on the logos or on the links on the top of the page. Once clicked, the user lands to the home page of each tool, where a short description of the tool's functionalities lies, and also links can be found to related documentation and user manuals. In order to proceed, the user has to declare that agrees that the project data and contact information submitted will be saved to the AAA Tools database and will be also accessible by other users. By clicking Get Started, the user lands to the first step of the Assess tool, where project's initial information is required. The countries that the standardized AAA tools cover are Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Germany, Greece, Italy, Lithuania, Spain, and the Netherlands. The Assess tool evaluates projects in the following sectors: the building sector, the manufacturing sector, the transportation sector, the district energy network sector, and the outdoor lighting sector. Each sector consists of distinct project subsectors and project categories that have to be selected by the user based on the project that is being assessed. The next step is the EU Taxonomy Compliance. The Assess tool, based on the sector and the project category, provides the technical screening criteria, and the user has to declare whether the project is taxonomy compliant or not. Following, 11 project risk assessment questions are provided to the user, which have to be replied in order to proceed to the next step. By clicking Submit, the user is redirected to the results page of the Assess tool. On this page, the user gets notified of the risk that has been calculated per its AAA project category, along with the total aggregated project risk. Note that the risk values presented are calculated on a scale from 0 to 100%. At this point, the user can proceed to the Agree tool by clicking on the respective button or on the Agree tools link on the top of the page. In the Agree tools homepage, users have to consent to the project data processing in order to proceed to the Agree tools project benchmarking and evaluation. The first step consists of the insertion of the energy efficiency project's financial and technical parameters to the system, such as the total investment cost, the annual operating cost, energy savings in electricity, natural gas, or other fuels, and the expected reduction of CO2 emissions. In the next step, the benchmarking parameters are defined. The benchmarking procedure takes into account 4 key performance indicators, 2 financial related indicators, 1 risk indicator, and one indicator that's related to the multi-benefits of the energy efficiency projects. The available indicators is the net present value, the discounted payback period, and the internal rate of return. The user is also able to define the weights of importance for each indicator by the drop-down lists. The weights can vary from very high to very low. When clicking Submit, the benchmarking results are presented along with the key performance indicators calculated. The benchmarking result can vary between AAA, reserved, and rejected. For more information on the benchmarking classes, you may find links to the respective documentation in the description. From this point, the user can proceed to the Assign tool by clicking on the respective button or on the Assign tool link on the top of the page. The AAA Assign tool is a multidimensional platform consisting of numerous interfaces according to the different types of beneficiaries and energy efficiency financing instruments. Financing bodies are available to see the projects of the database by clicking Find Projects. In this table, investors can view the inserted project from other users, along with the respective information and the indicators calculated for each project in the previous tools. The users can change the sorting of the table by clicking on each column name. When clicking on a project name, the user is directed to a page in which can send a financing proposal for the selected project. The proposal in this step could be a green loan or a green mortgage. In order to proceed, additional financial information of the proposal have to be entered. Back to the Assigns tool homepage, the user can also aggregate projects and notify project developers to cooperate and issue a green bond. Investors can select projects of their preference from the projects table and define green bonds parameters in order to send a request to project developers of the selected project. Also, from the main Assigns tools page, investors can find submitted green bonds to the system. The table includes all the green bonds that have been submitted along with the respective information. Users can view the projects that are included in the green bond and also view issuers' contact info. The last functionality of the Assigns tool interface for investors is the information page of the submitted financing proposals. Project Developers interface includes two main functionalities. The first is the financing proposals, in which a table of the financing proposals submitted by investors are listed, along with the respective information. By clicking on the proposal ID, the project developer can view more information on the financing proposal and also investors' contact information. Back to the project developers interface of the Assign tool, users can also view the requests for green bonds that have been placed by investors. By clicking on the green bond name, the project developer can view all the other projects that are requested to be included in the green bond, and by clicking on the issuer's name, the project developer can view issuer's contact information. From the My Project link on the top of the page, project developers and investors can view the projects that they have submitted in the tool, and by clicking on the project name, users can view the analytic breakdown of the selected projects. From the Profile page, users can enrich their profile with analytic information of their company or financing institution in order to become more attractive to investors and project developers. This can lead to a more efficient matchmaking of project financing proposals and requests. This has been a short demonstration of the AAA Tools functionalities. More information on the AAA Tools or news and updates of the AAA project can be found in the AAA Project's website and in project's social media accounts in Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
So this has been a short demonstration regarding the AAA tools. So we can now proceed to the next presentation. Can
Very
you hear me?
interesting, Philippe.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You don't just a question, right? I think we can move then. The next thing is the panel, right? So the indicators and also the parameters for the green bond, all these are based on rules, right? About what parameters you have to include, what data you have to compute, and so on, right? So there is no statistical processing, right? Now I'm thinking in terms of INFINITECH, like machine learning and so on, or it's all based on rules, right? There are very well regulated and based on rules. Can you answer this?
The tool does not calculate the parameters of a green bond because this is it has to do with the underwriting procedure between project developers and investors. So the tool facilitates the insertion of a green bond which has been previously issued based on the findings of the tool in order for other investors to buy this bond or to invest with this bond. So we don't calculate the parameters. The parameters are being set by the communication, yes, from the issuers.
Okay. Okay, but in principle, you know, in the underwriting process, you could use statistical methods, right? Like you do with other finance instruments. Okay, I'm going to save this for the panel. So I think that now it's time for the panel. You know, I think we've seen very interesting things. We can have a free discussion, and I'd like to invite Ms. Alice Korovesi to open her camera, Managing Director at INZEB. And she's an expert in energy efficiency projects and financing, especially in buildings. Mr. Nicholas Kakoyanis, General Manager from Resnove, and Kaspar Dekiski, Managing Partner at EnerSave. So maybe you can just open your cameras. And also, yes, my colleague, Richard McCready. So having heard all this, and before, you know, asking you a couple of questions, I'd like to give you the floor, but, you know, you can really, because we are a little bit lagging behind, if you can really be quick introducing yourselves, what you do, and what is your, you know, an opening statement about the risk assessment work we've seen so far. So maybe we start with Ms. Korovesi. The floor is yours. Please introduce yourself.
Yes.
What you do and a viewpoint on what you've seen today.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the invitation, both you, Mr. Solados, and of course, Hara Karakosta and the AAA team. It's a pleasure to be among reputable and experts in the domain here in the discussion. So what we do at INZEB, we are a non-profit organization working since 2014, based in Athens, Greece, addressing both the technical parts of buildings, energy efficiency in buildings, and the built environment. And in addition, the second axle of our organization works towards the social aspects of energy, and this comes to the mitigation of energy poverty, energy communities, energy democracy, energy justice. And in addition, we are working towards energy efficiency financing, not from the core technical part, but from the part of the policy recommendations and developing strategies in collaboration with other organizations. As part of our work is the SMAFIN project. It's the continuation of the Sustainable Energy Investment Forums, which is coordinated by CRES. It's the Center for Renewable Energy Sources and Savings. And along with Bulgaria, Romania, and Croatia, we are now trying to develop policy recommendations on how to increase private financing for increasing energy efficiency rates in these four countries. So far, I'm impressed of the work that has been done in your project. I'm also impressed about the AAA, even though I'm close to the AAA project, so I know the developments. But as a general statement, what I can say is that we need such kind of tools in order to support governments, public authorities, and anyone who is working in the field to increase the confidence in investing in energy efficiency projects. Because yes, energy efficiency should be the #1 priority in the EU and the member states. But okay, I think that I will stop now as a short introduction to give the floor to the others as well, and I'm available for any other question that you might have.
Thank you, Alice, for being short and to the point. Mr. Kakogiannis?
Hi, hello. Thank you for the invitation. It is always a great pleasure to participate in a AAA event. I think you are very innovative. You are on the ripple of all the ESG, sustainability, taxonomy evolution. Now, as regard me and my company, we are a startup on sustainability services, on ESG services. We are a member of the Elevate Greece registry, and we have developed an cloud-based, AI-based ESG evaluation platform. So we use AI on document processing, on document recognition, and on data recognition to go and get all the critical data and all the critical information from companies and entities, documents, fiscal and HR, their software in-house, HR and logistics and all this. We gather all this in an automated way. We use RPA, robotic process automation system, and all this we have developed a specific methodology to evaluate the ESG rate of a company. So ESGenius is the name of the platform. We think that we are also innovative, and we have imported AI and robotic process automation in order to minimize the human interference and make our result as more punctual and not greenwashing as it can be. So this is in a high level our work on sustainability and AI, and I am at your disposal for more details and whatever.
Thank you, Nikos. I'll keep this in mind to ask you, about, how we can use RPA, right, and AI in
yes,
in in gathering information, automating information. But now I'll take. I don't know if Mr. Dexiki is joining us. I'm not sure.
Hello, I'm Philippos Mexis. Mr. Chaba informed me that he had an issue and he had to leave.
Okay.
And he sent me an email with the recommendations regarding energy efficiency and funding energy efficiency. And he told me whether I could read these recommendations on his behalf.
Let's do that later, Philippe, maybe in the end.
Okay.
I'd like to, to give the floor to Richard. Actually, I don't know if you want to reintroduce yourself and what you do, but I've got a question, right? I mean, the question here is, because we heard, also Nikos talking previously about AI and machine learning for the ECG investments. So what are really, the benefits, right, in using machine learning? Is it about automation? Is it about, intelligence? Is it about speed? Is it about saving costs, reducing errors? And if you see, any dark side, right, also on using AI, maybe the bias, maybe, the trustworthiness and the reliability part of it. So please, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself again, but let's open this discussion. And I think Nikos will make some points, especially if he's using this already later.
Okay, so I'll quickly just reintroduce myself. So I'm Richard McCready. So I'm a lecturer at the University of Glasgow Within Glasgow, we are largely a machine learning focused group targeting next generation technologies for effectively information finding. So how can we take digitized information and then extract knowledge from that can be used for members of the public? In the finance space, this is very much about saying, like, what can we draw from, statistical financial data, but also from the large amounts of public text and other documentation that we can find on the web about financial companies, and use that to make the technologies that are supporting current investments smarter and more aware of what they're actually recommending to you, such that we can reduce risks and better personalize those technologies for the end user. So John, you asked about ECGs. So let me kind of talk a wee bit around that topic. So one of the problems that we have with machine learning technologies right now is that they're very much focused on what I would call the technical indicators, right? So they're looking at these financial streams and they are trying to decide, okay, how profitable is this thing? And that is their main driver. And so they're not socially aware of the things that they are actually providing to the user. All they care about is that number, right, at the other end. So is this going to make me 20% profit? Is it going to make me 10% profit? And so just to give an example, since I very quickly just pulled this up. So if I showed you this graph, so this is a profitability graph for this particular company, which I've hidden the name for. And the green line is the amount of money that the value of the stock for this particular company. If I just look at this from a technical indicator perspective, then you might look at this and say, well, this is a good thing to invest in. But what if I told you that this is a defense company, and the reason that they are being so profitable is because they're profiting off Ukraine? Is that a socially reasonable investment to take now? And so this is one of these aspects where if we are wanting to factor in other factors beyond just how profitable it is, we need our machine learning algorithms to more deeply understand what it is that these companies represent, and then what our customers, so the people that are actually making those investments, care about. Is socially sustainable investing something they care about, right? If you're then looking at it from a company perspective, if you recall the sort of overview of like asset recommendation that I gave, one of the things that I talked to you a bit about was how some of the data that we want to integrate into these models is information about the world. So this is information about marketing conditions, but it's also broader. So one of the opportunities that these kind of next generation deep learning models allow us to do is they allow us to capture more complex information about the things that we are investing in. So if you're looking at this from the perspective, it's not just about looking at technical indicators, but it might also be things like, let's build a knowledge graph about a company. So we can start to detect the relationships between maybe the different board members, their backgrounds, the different decisions that they've made. And then we can embed that to give effectively a green or sociable, sustainable or quality metric to not only the company's performance, but also the people that are actually working at that company or driving decisions about that company. And so these more complex models enable us to integrate this different type of evidence such that we can make them smarter and more useful for us in terms of being able to make decisions which are not just useful for making money, but also for being sustainable longer term. I could also talk about challenges, but maybe I'll let other people come in before I talk about the dark side of this.
Yeah. Maybe we can revisit this later. I think that's the reason, Richard and everybody, why we see in the literature also new metrics emerging, right? Earlier on, Philippe talked about MPV and ROI, return on investment. So for example, in different industrial sectors, we have the social ROI, which tries to augment the traditional technical parameter with the ever important social aspects, which in some contexts like ESG, it has significant. So I'm going to move, the reverse order now to Nikos and then to Alice. And yeah, of course, I'd like to have the comments of Nikos on what has been sent for the social aspect. But I've got also, some curiosity, because you mentioned, right, it was not really planned, the robotic process automation. Is this really, AI? I know it's called robotic, right? Or it is just, about automating a series of steps, for gathering information in the systems, right? So it's not really, at least at this stage, artificial intelligence or machine learning, right? It's just a matter of automating some steps on gathering the information, as you said, from different systems, marketing, HR, or documents, and so on. So if you want, yeah, I mean, feel free to comment on on Richard's position, but also if you try to give us some insights on this RPA question, I'll be grateful.
Nice. We are lucky because we implement all this in real life. So let me distinguish the two levels. What I mean, RPA, it is how can I say, it copies structured operations, processes that you teach the RPA system. There are, it is nowadays it is a mature technology. 2-3 years ago, I would say it was not mature, but now there are some significant worldwide providers, UiPath, Automation Anywhere, and many others. We are familiar, we use basically Automation Anywhere and UiPath, depending on the budget of the client. Automation Anywhere is much
IBM
more
also,
cheaper.
maybe, right? IBM.
Yes, okay, yes. There are about 10 reliable companies at this moment. At this point, you are right. We do not have AI. When I teach a process, it just repeat all this process. I gain resources, I gain reliability, I gain velocity, I gain time. But the AI feature, we use AI into points. The first of all, in recognition documents. For example, when you upload a document on our platform, I don't care, I don't take into account how you will name your document, but the platform has been taught to recognize what document it is and where is the critical information that wants to extract. In our metrics, you have seen that we have about 92% of reliability, but the good thing is when it's not sure that 90% that it has the right, it has recognized the data he's looking for. He puts support the document, red flag, and calls for the human eye to check the document. But 92%, it is a high percentage, and it's going higher as long as you use it. But returning to RPA, what these companies offers now, the software vendors offer us now, is that after there are some modules that they monitor processes of the employees, they evaluate the time and the effort of the users, and they suggest what they can go to replicate and optimize. So in a smooth way and in a step-by-step procedure, we try to enter AI also in RPA process. It's not an easy procedure, and why? What is our basic barrier? is that we have a small amount of data, a small amount of processes. But also in our ESG rating, for example, we use AI when we develop an action plan to improve your ESG rating. We go one year after and we evaluate your new ESG rating, judging, taking into account the action plan that the platform suggested, which of these steps were implemented and were not ignored, and then we try to feedback and teach the algorithm which step was efficient and which step was not efficient. But also there, the big barrier is data. That's why...
Like some process mining, right? To find...
Yes, exactly. Process mining.
Perfect.
Yes.
So you are saying that RPA is standard now, is rule-based, but AI is coming, right?
Yes, RPA is commodity. A commodity for us and for the majority of the RPA developers is commodity. AI on RPA is coming, but it's coming very quickly because we have all the needed weapons to do it.
Thank you very much, Nikos. Now I'm going to turn to Alice, and I'm going to move, the discussion a little bit to policy. And I'd like to capitalize, Alice, on your, energy efficiency. From the general landscape of energy efficient investments, right? And what are the policy challenges? So let's move, the discussion a little bit to the policy aspect, because we can see the policy aspect of AI later as well. So please, Alice.
Okay, yes, please, John, if you can repeat the first part of the question, because there was an interruption and you were frozen for a bit. So I don't know, it was my problem or yours.
Maybe it was my problem. So okay. I was saying that what is really special about of energy efficient buildings, right? And what is, the policy challenge and the regulatory
John,
challenge.
John, we lost you again.
We lost you again, especially the first part.
Yes.
It's something like that the universe doesn't want to address the first part of the question. I don't know.
Let me try once again.
Try vice versa. I heard the second one about the policy part, so let's do it vice versa.
Yeah, okay. The first part was what is special about investments about the energy efficient investments that concern buildings, right? So okay. That was the first part of the question. Now with my camera off, I hope you were able to.
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay, and then it's about the policy part and how this can be, let's say, addressed in any case. Yes, whatever has to do with the building specifically, I think that it's not so much different from any other investments that we're doing in other parts. I mean, infrastructure probably, or let's say to the SMEs as a general. The risks are, let's say, somehow common. Of course, they are differently approached by the financiers and the banks. Definitely when it has to do with the buildings and the development of new buildings, or let's say renovation of the buildings, it's definitely the credit risk, which is the main part that needs to be concerned. And this definitely relates to a borrower not repaying a loan, lease, or a third-party investor. And credit risk is typically considered as a financing risk. So therefore, financial institutions should be ready to deal with such cases in advance. That's why the tools that you have presented today, and especially since I know in more depth the AAA project, those should be a part of the financing, let's say, part of the banks or the other investors, so as to monitor and evaluate better this credit risk that probably an investment related to buildings has. At the other, we have the performance risks, and this is again related to buildings. And when we're talking about the performance risk, it's concerning about the repayment, which in many cases depends on the energy saving achievements. So mostly when the actual savings are not sufficient to repay the investment. In this case, the performance risk is associated with savings being generated either from a project that are not typically known to financial institutions, and probably the results also from the non or the limited availability of tools that could safeguard, let's say, somehow the decisions of the financial institutions.
So at least you say, let me know if I got this right, that it's like, you know, the traditional real estate investment, but we have to account for the energy saving, right? Which is an important part. But the main instruments from the investment perspective are like a regular, you know, a classical real estate investment. So the finance risks and so on, but you account for some savings benefits from the energy efficiency.
Yes,
did I get it right or not?
Yes, that's right. When we are now discussing about carbon neutrality, and this is the aim of European Union to be the first carbon neutral continent by 2050. We need to consider the bad quality of the majority. 70% of buildings in the EU are not performing well, and buildings are the worst, let's say, energy consumers. So we need to consider also the energy efficiency and the sustainability aspect of buildings as part of an investment. Otherwise, for me, and this is my personal opinion, but also the opinion of some fora that I'm participating, is that without an energy efficient building stock, which will be there and still be standing for the next 50 or 60 years, and consider also that we are spending 90% of our lives inside the building. So we need to consider also the energy efficiency, and sustainability aspect when we're taking decisions about financing projects that are related to buildings, either building a new one or innovating. So this is definitely part of an investment. So yes, the risks are there. It's the credit risks, it's the performance risk. So the financiers and those that they are providing money for this category of investment, they need also to consider the energy efficiency aspect as well.
Okay, clear enough. I mean, I also know I've read that this problem is also severe in big US cities like New York. Okay? A lot of corporate buildings, and many of them are old, right? All these skyscapers, some of the skyscapers we see
exactly.
are really old, and they're not performing well from the energy part. So having said that, we don't have so much time. So, but I would like to ask, Richard, a quick question, and then, we can go to Philip and wrap up, which is, about the risks. Can I trust your recommender? That's the question, which is trending, especially in the EU. We have the AI regulation. I don't know if UK is gonna follow this, but we have the AI regulation. When an AI system takes critical decision, it has to be transparent, it has to be white glass, and so on. So the question is, can I really trust your recommendations, or it's a matter of religion to follow them because the robots say so?
Yes. It's like all hail the algorithm. So this is where it kind of leads into sort of the challenges or the dark side of modern technologies. So one of the things that, like, with the advance of AI technologies, these models have become far more complex than we've previously been possible. This has brought us great power, but it has also brought us great challenges in terms of trying to understand what these models are doing and what are the key factors that are going into the recommendations that they make. This is just one of the core challenges, and this hasn't been fully solved yet. Part of this, or part of the solution to this, is making our AI models more explainable, either inherently. So this might be building models in such a way that effectively there are action points within the network that we can use to try and tease apart what the model is actually doing when it is making a decision, or alternatively, having surrounding systems that are effectively trying to explain what the system is doing based on the input and the main weights of the system. The other side of this is then looking at what sort of biases are these systems learning? Because at the end of the day, these systems are not like humans. They are given an objective function, which is some kind of easy to measure thing, which it is trying to optimize. And through optimizing this factor, it may learn things that you don't want it to know, or you don't want it to factor in, right? There's been a lot of discussion on fairness in AI, where it's looking at, okay, is this biasing against particular ethnic groups? I think what we're looking more in kind of like the finance domain is, what is the downstream impact of learning from this past data? Are we learning that people should be investing in how to exploit third world countries? Would be the equivalent of kind of problem in the financial space. To take a more recent example, let's say we have a great AI model that has learned how the energy markets work around the world, right? It detects that Russia is looking to invade Ukraine. What does it take from that? It learns that, okay, there's going to be limited supply in Europe for oil. So should you now be taking your investments out of Russian oil producers and then investing in Saudi Arabia? That might be a great investment choice from just a money-making perspective, but is that something that we want our model to actually learn, given the other potential challenges from a social or democratic perspective in that country, right? Or should we be, should our model be trying to learn social factors like, well, maybe we should be trying to promote green energy, and so instead of investing your money in more oil-producing companies, maybe you should be putting it into green energy or these kind of things. The challenge there, though, is to enable our models to learn that, we need to have training examples and we need to have objective functions that allow our models to take into account these other soft factors. So we need to be able to move from a paradigm where we're just looking at profit to where these models are able to factor in all of these other soft factors that we care about as humans and are important to make sure that what we're doing is sustainable for the long term.
Thank you, Richard. That makes sense, right? And connect also to the first intervention. We have very limited time. I'd like to invite, Nikos and Alice to just give a closing statement for the day. I don't want to do this, and then I'll give the floor back to Philippe for the wrap up and maybe for reading the recommendations of our missing panelists. So, Nikos, Alice, one quick statement. We're really, at the end of the workshop.
Okay, I can do first. I don't know, Nikos. Okay, thanks a lot. As a final statement, what I can say is that we need to increase the attractiveness of energy efficiency. And considering that this is an investment proposition, depending definitely on the environment in which the project arises, and also it is being influenced by a number of different factors. So we need to work towards the policy environment, the energy market structure, the existence of suitable supply chains for energy efficiency projects. And this can be only done when you have, let's say, stakeholders that they are looking in strengthening the policy environment and also the energy market structure. As I said in my previous statement, this is very well connected, the whole investment area with the buildings as well. So if we want to move towards a more sustainable world, which is with a more sustainable financing, let's say, we need to consider a lot of factors that need to be redesigned, rescheduled, and rephrased in some of the cases in order to have, let's say, the desired approach and desired outcome.
Thank you, Alice. Nico, some very statement.
My statement is that if I can follow up what Alice said, I wish that we're going to leave apart guidelines and go to regulations. So basically on energy efficiency, on sustainability, on ESG and taxonomy, I think that the European committee, the European decision makers, they are going all the time further and further the time for decisions, the moment, the point for decisions, and what we face, the basic difficulty that we face on energy efficiency, environmental policy, sustainability policy is that when something is not obligatory or it's not obvious when it will be obligatory, there is not a strong incentive to implement the proper policies. So this is I think my strong point and my wish.
So no more delays. The future is now. Let's act now, right? Okay. Thank you,
Yes.
Nikos. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Richard. And thanks everybody for joining today. I hope you really enjoyed this content. I think the presentations from both projects were very tangible and very good quality with demonstrations. Philippe, the floor is yours for the closing from AAA. And yes, that's it.
Hello,
thank you very
from
much.
me again. I would like to say once more that Chaba has been in the meeting this whole time, but unfortunately in the last minute he had to leave. So he sent me an email with some recommendations. So as he mentions, the big issue in funding energy efficiency is that many projects are borderline from a return standpoint, and they have long maturities, which in general would be excluding factors for funding. Also, by applying a tried and tested method in the US municipal capital markets to make the coupon or interest payment tax-free, this could, on the one hand, reduce the interest rate, which would be needed for funding a given project. And at a tax rate of 20%, this is a difference between 4 and 5% interest rate needing to be paid, which in return could be the difference between a go and no-go decision. As any more projects would get financed, the additional VAT and additional employee tax contributions would easily compensate the shortfall resulting from the tax-free status on the green bonds. By allowing these tax-free statuses, in particular in the crowdfunding sector and up to 5 million euro transactions, which under the latest EU directives will make the crowdfunding market more efficient across Europe. It has been shown that demand for green investment is a very much growing arena. It has been shown that the local investors are more apt to support local projects, thus aligning the local investor with local projects which he could directly benefit of. Last but not least, deep renovations, which are a must, would be easy to execute like this, and this would contribute to the EU objectives of reducing energy dependence and to retrofit 3% of the building stock annually to achieve the 2050 objectives. This has been the remarks from Mr. Chaba. I hope I had been clear because I was reading it. It was a last-minute email.
Thank you, Philippe. It is really interesting, right? And it also relates to the things we've seen in the workshop, because if they are really marginal, then, you know, the risk assessment becomes critical, right? I mean, for the go, no go decision. So, yeah, I think we can stop the recording. Just to say thanks for everybody participating. I think we can, you know, distribute the recording via the YouTube channels of the both projects. And yeah, thanks everybody for participating.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.